The Eagles-Niners, this was the NFC Championship game. Eagles beat the Niners 31-7 because the Niners ran out of quarterbacks. Brock Purdy got hurt, and then he was replaced by Josh Johnson. And the Niners were only down 7 points at the end of the first, or toward the end of the first half. But then Josh Johnson loses a fumble, and the Eagles get the ball. They turn into a touchdown. So then the Eagles go into halftime up 14 instead of 7. Josh Johnson comes out and gets concussed on like the first drive of the second half. So in a 2-drive span, the Niners go from like down 1 touchdown and 1 quarterback to down 2 touchdowns and down 2 quarterbacks. Brock Purdy comes back in the game, but he already hurt his elbow. So Brock Purdy just comes in to hand the ball off.
He
and
couldn't
then the Niners
throw.
lose 31-7. He can't throw the ball. He can't throw the ball. And the NFL ended up changing the rules. Now you can have a backup emergency third quarterback now because they were like, this is kind of dumb. So now these teams meet again. Eagles are 10-1. Niners are 8-3. And if the Eagles win, they'll be 11-1. But really, if the Eagles win, they'll almost certainly be the number 1 seed and get the only first-round bye in the NFC this year. Because again, there's only 1 team in each conference that gets a bye now instead of 2 each. So the Niners winning would be more of a 60-40 scenario. The Niners would still be able to get maybe the 1 seed if they win. But I actually think the Niners are going to win this game. And I'm curious what you guys think. I'm going to start DK. But I look at this game, one, just the pent-up frustration that the Niners have from being literally just any quarterback. Bueller could have won that game for them maybe. But Max Toscano had this awesome tweet where he tweeted out a picture, or just a video, but of the Niners playing the Jaguars from a game earlier this year. And it was Brandon Ayuk lined up at receiver, Christian McCaffrey lined up at the other receiver spot, and it was Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback at tight end, Debo in the backfield, and George Kittle in the slot. And Max Toscano was like, you could make the argument that this is 5 different personnel groupings. Like, do you treat this as 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, and a running back, or 2 running backs? Or do you treat this as how many, like literally it's like the Killers of the Flower Moon, how many wolves in this picture? It's like, how many running backs are in this picture? 0, 1, 2, like you don't know. And so this is such a versatile team. And DK, I'm just curious, but like the Niners offense, when they're fully healthy, I feel like the Niners are the best team in the league. And I feel like they're going to win this game.
Yeah. And I think it's tough because I think the Eagles are also a very good team and have some very distinct advantages when it comes to like the tush push and what Jalen Hurts does with that, the rushing game and all that. But like when it comes to this interchangeability, truly positionless football, I feel like this is something the Ringer talks about all the time, but the 49ers are actually living it. There's like very few teams that actually do things this way. And the reason it's so useful is basically if you think about football, there's actually not that many plays. You know what I mean? It's like there's been over the like 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever, how many years football has been a pro sport. Like there's a finite number of actual plays in concepts.
What do they say? Taco Bell? It's like the same 5 ingredients, just in a different package.
That's great. See, that's exactly what I'm getting at, Craig. Because the 49ers, one thing that makes them so difficult to defend is not only do they have amazing skill players, but the way that they can dress up their schemes and their concepts. Concepts is the key word here because like the 49ers can run the same concept out of multiple different formations and multiple different personnel groupings, and they can do it equally well. So like, for instance, Christian McCaffrey can be a receiver in the same concept as he is a running back in a different like look. And so their ability to do this makes it so much harder for the defense to pick up what they're doing. It's harder for defenses to, basically guess what play the offense is doing. Cause that's what, like, it's tipping pitches essentially, like for, if you're in baseball, knowing which pitch is coming, it's fastball versus an off-speed pitch is such a crucial thing. And with
that's what I was just thinking, DK. I was literally just about to say, it's kind of just like pitching. I mean, there are like 4, maybe 5 pitches really that a pitcher can throw. And it's all about tricking you into not knowing which one it is and making every single wind up and release look exactly the same.
Exactly. And so the crucial part of all this is the 49ers can run the same concepts teams see all year round. But they just trick you because they line up and it looks different. And maybe they do little different motions or they line up at different spots on the field, but then they run the same concepts from those looks. And so it's just very, very hard to defend them. And this is a big part of why Brock Purdy is so good, because he, does such an efficient job of distributing the football in from these concepts. Obviously, it helps to have guys that are incredible at yards after the catch. And that's, I think, where the 49ers have a big edge. But it's just so fun to see this type of offense actually working.
Such a good comp. So I think there's 2 things here. The Sean McVay Rams, remember that year they ran 98% of their plays out of 11 personnel? And they just, that I think was like Greg Maddox. And Greg Maddox's thing was no one knows how fast something travels. It's not something in the human brain. Like he's like, you can't tell how fast a car is going unless there's another car next to it. And Greg Maddox was like, if every pitch throw looks exactly the same and he get it better than everything else, you won't be able to tell what's happening. That was McVay. Everything looks the same at the beginning, but then by the halfway through the play, you're like, oh, this actually isn't a run, it's play action. The Shanahan stuff's kind of the opposite, where there are some pitchers like Johnny Cueto or Mark Burley, and I know I just said Cueto wrong. I'm sorry to everyone who's mad at me. I can't pronounce things. I like Bill Simmons had pronunciation dyslexia. But there are other pitchers who might throw the same pitch, but now at the pitch clock are like changing up the delivery, or sometimes they'll like change and go faster where the beginning looks different, but it actually was the same pitch, but they went faster or changed it, whatever. That's kind of what the Niners are doing here. DK, I love the Taco Bell thing, DK, because...
Well, that was Craig. It's all Craig right there.
Well, whatever. But the point is perfect, though.
Sure,
that's exactly it. Where it's like, Taco Bell, it's all the same stuff. It's meat, cheese, and vegetables. But they're like, hey, you want a burrito? You want a taco? You want whatever?
Crunch wrap? Then they add shit together?
But to your point...
Hard tacos and soft tacos together?
And there's like concepts and there's meals. The concept is there's one concept of Taco Bell. There's meat and cheese.
I love Taco Bell, by the way.
Yeah.
So
free ads.
Quesadilla in a burrito, a taco in a quesadilla.
But it's like if the Niners have one concept, but they can run it from 5 different formations because you can put Juszczyk at 3 different places and Kittle 3 different places and Debo 3 different places. They have one concept, but like if let's say they have 10 plays and you have one formation, that's 10 plays. But the Niners 10 plays, they actually have like 70 plays. That's a game. Like they have a whole game.
It's a chess match. It's like the first move on a chessboard, and there's like a million different iterations of what they could do from there, and they could have all these different personnel groups, and then you get the defense thinking, oh, how are we going to counter what they're doing in this particular formation or this particular personnel grouping? You got guys thinking instead of just playing fast.
And then it becomes basketball too. Football too. This is an important thing, but I think this is a huge basketball thing because then Shanahan, this is where Shanahan's really good. He can dictate to the defense who has to be on the field, and he can dictate the matchups because when everyone's so versatile, he's like, you can't keep your worst defender in the bench. We're going to put a lineup out that you have to have your worst players out in the field.
Yeah, it's like setting screens and pick and rolls to get your worst defender onto your best player, which is like what the NBA is built on right now, is just like pick and rolls to get a big guy on a small guy, and that's how you do it.
I love that.
Speaking of, you guys mentioned Chet, like this is all just like chess. Do you think there is any truth in the kind of like the common thing people talk about sometimes about like not wanting to show all of your cards? Do you think that, the Niners are favored by 3 points in this game and they're in Philadelphia? Pretty surprising. I mean, I would have said, if anything, I mean, this is an Eagles team with 1 loss at home. I would have probably guessed that they would be favored by a point and a half. The Niners giving 3 on the road is surprising, 1. So Vegas clearly values the Niners and thinks they're a better team right now. But do you think there's a sense of, or do you even believe in the idea behind like showing your cards too early if these people meet up, if these two teams, if these people meet up again in
2 buildings
in a month and a half?
There's 2 buildings meeting up. Just people who work at buildings.
Football is just really just people hanging out.
It's the Philadelphia people versus the San Francisco people in this one. No, I think it's pretty clear that teams definitely hold things back for like they try. I think maybe not every coach, but a lot of coaches will try to keep things up their sleeve, save it for the end of the season.
Because is this game more important to the Niners or the Eagles? Because I don't think the Niners are going to get the 1 seed. I mean, if they lose this game, there's no shot they will.
Yeah, it's important for the Niners. Well, it's important for both teams, honestly, because right now I think the Eagles have a 2-game advantage on the number 1 seed. The number 1 seed is the only team now that gets a first-round bye, which is massive advantage.
I know that's important, but if you almost feel like even if the Niners do win, they're still probably not going to get the 1 seed. It's like Dallas is in the same division as the Eagles, so they're not, and they're the other best team in the NFC. So even if Dallas is locked into a wild card because they're not going to beat the Eagles. So it's like the Niners are almost a guarantee for a 2 or 3 seed right now. So I wonder if it's like if Shanahan is not going to want to show everything they have right now in case they meet up again.